the hoary, grey or ancient church. Whatever its origins, it obviously was a hallowed spot and most suitable as a Christian burial place. Here, in the dense woods, the first private interment took place as night was falling on the 7th of April, 1611.
Have we the body of our dearly departed?
In paradisum deducant te angeli, in tuo adventu suscipiant te martyres, et perducant te in civitatem sanctam Jerusalem. Chorus angelorum te suscipiat, et cum latero quondam paupere aeternam habeis requiem. Per Dominum nostrum Jesum Christum Filium Tuum, qui tecum vivit et regnat in unitate Spiritus Sancti Deus, per omnia saecula saeculorum. Amen.
Now let us depart in peace. Amen.
Never was divine providence so speedy, for the very next morning after the first burial, a local boy, obviously keen to explore the scene of the previous night's undertaking, stumbled upon a hoard of buried treasure. Churchyards were often used to conceal treasure, and this cache was probably hidden around 913 AD, possibly on the sudden news of another Danish incursion on the nearby coast. The original owner was probably prevented from reclaiming it by death or captivity. The actual number of coins and silver pieces is the subject of dispute, with William Blundell declaring it to be 80 and the later Cavalier counting 300. Whatever its provenance, William Blundell saw it as a gift from God, an immediate reward for his Christian charity to his neighbours. Sadly, the hoard was later lost during the turmoil and plunder of the Civil War, when it accompanied important family documents sent away to Wales for safekeeping. The coins were never to return, but a record was kept by Mr. Blundell, who carefully made a copperplate engraving of 35 of them. The satisfaction of creating a burial ground and the excitement of finding the treasure was short-lived, however, as the government agents looked on in disfavour at his setting up and maintaining a churchyard for the burial of seminary priests and popish recusants, contrary to the laws of the kingdom. Worse than that, a riot occurred when the bailiffs arrived to seize oxen, sheep and cattle and feeding material. Blundell was accused of orchestrating the whole affair. This was a trumped-up charge, and his punishment was imprisonment in the Fleet Jail, a fine of £2,000 and compensation of 200 marks for the bailiffs. In addition, King Charles' officers, sitting underneath the ceiling of the Star Chamber, ordered that the Harkirk should be razed to the ground, and all the memorial stones were smashed. The matter was not finally resolved until 1631, when the King, Charles I, accepted a reduced fine of £250 and thought that he had got the better part of the bargain. By 1638, William Blundell had died, and in 1640, his grandson, William the Cavalier, declared that he was bankrupt. Inheriting so much debt might have broken softer stuff than a Blundell. His courage, however, grew strong. With the help from friends, both Protestants and Catholics, he raised £1,109 to buy back his lands, which by now had been seized by the Roundheads in the Civil War. Just when he thought all was well, lawyers unearthed further unpaid fines for recusancy dating back to the 1590s for the massive sum of £1,167. William paid the fines, sent his children abroad, and went to the court of the exiled King Charles II, returning just in time for the general rejoicing at the Restoration. Happier times seemed to beckon when suddenly the Test Act of 1673 came into force, which required all gentry to take the Anglican sacrament and denied transubstantiation. Despite being always loyal to Charles II, the Blundell lands were once again seized and William thrown back into prison, this time for 8 months. The only compensation was the higher class of house guests those days, as William noted that his sojourn had been rendered extremely pleasant by having Mr. Townley of Townley to share it. His cheerful society would make life pleasant anywhere. By the time that the Catholic James II came to the throne, William the Cavalier was becoming desperate, writing a letter to the king which was never sent. "I have lost estates and land sequestered. I bought my land off the rebels, I was 4 times prisoner and paid my ransom twice, all for the loyalty to my king." The glorious revolution of William and Mary only made matters worse. Despite declaring his allegiance to the Protestant monarchy, the rabble was raised in 1694. His son was duly released at the Manchester trials, thanks to the common sense of the Lancashire yeomen who sat on the jury. With 13 grandchildren and many family and friends, the old Cavalier was obviously overjoyed when he wrote, "We have now every reason to pray for the king, and may sit very securely under our own vine." For the next 5 years, until his death in 1689, he did just that, taking pleasure in his estate and his family and friends. After receiving the last rites of the church, this much-loved man died. The requiem having been said at the hall, his body was quietly taken to be interred with his ancestors in the family vault at Sefton Church. Three years later, the Cavalier's grandson became the new Squire. Nicholas Blundell set about his domestic business temporarily free from the burdens of state. Nicholas Blundell actually saw it as his duty to produce an heir, which was a bit like putting the cart before the horse. Besides, a bachelor squire was subject to heavy taxes. His immediate problem was to find a bride. His grandfather, the Cavalier, had even written a treatise on the subject, setting out a table of prices on a sliding scale, depending on the bride's bank balance and social status. Using a marriage dowry to pay off family debts was not a new or unscrupulous idea. Indeed, it was an accepted principle with benefits for all concerned. Nicholas studied his family pedigree, consulted with relatives and friends, and finally cast his lot at Frances, daughter of Marmaduke, 3rd Baron Langdale of Home. She fulfilled all his criteria. A letter was dispatched to Oxford by horse and rider for a prince's ransom of £1 7 shillings and 4pence, compared to the wages of a poor steward who might earn as much in 3 months. Soon, the post room at Liverpool was abuzz with correspondence, not of romance and love, but offering terms and conditions. His business acumen paid off, and soon he was invited to Hatherop, near Fairford, to sign the contract, view the bride, and commit matrimony. The high-spirited 17-year-old was an heiress in her own right, and £2,000 was promised into the new squire's hands.
She's a lovely girl. There's £1,000. All you have to do is sign there at the bottom.
Money suddenly was no object. Nicholas kitted himself out handsomely. So he thought. He took himself off to London to see the sights, buy presents, complete his wardrobe, and get ready for marriage.